Now, loops. So you guys are familiar with loops. I hope Arun knows about loops, and Tawfiq, you must be knowing about loops. Okay. So, but I'll say, why do we need loops? So the main purpose of loops is, okay, we have some multiple data and we need to process it. Like say multiple data in the sense, like let's say we have a database, a records of data. Let's say Taufik has some set of data, like his his location, his education, his date of birth, and there are pretty things attached to. And same as for Priyanka, and same as for Arun, and same as for me. So like assuming each person to be a record, let's say. Okay, so we have four people in here. So, let us consider each person to be a record. So if I have to process the data based on my name, let's say I say like there is some data attached to the name Tawfiq, there is some data attached to the name Priyanka, there is some data attached to the name Arun. So let's say there is data to process. Like if it's only like one record, yeah, I can directly go and process. I know what record it is. There are two records, okay, I know, and I can still manage to process. There are three records, yes, again I can manage to process it. But what if I don't know how many records in there and I still want to process the data? Okay, so now I have to fetch the data or access the data or process the data. Okay, one by one at a time. Okay, now if I want to process the data, like let's see, we'll be looking some examples of what exactly process data. So if you want to tackle with this data one by one at a time, then yeah, we need loops. Okay, for instance, let's say I want to print numbers, okay, from 1 to 10 or from 1 to 10. Like I want to print numbers from 1 to n. Now n is a variable, like n can be anything. N can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 or 100 or 1000. So I don't know how do I process this. So for that, to print them, I can use one thing. I can say document.write, okay, and I'll print 1, then I'll print 2, I'll print 3, 4, 5, like such. It's like redundant. The code gets big. It becomes redundant instead of writing so many document.writes. Or I can say like I'll say loop, okay, loop until the number reaches n. Okay, this is a pseudo syntax. I'm just writing it there. It's not a syntax actually. So I'll say loop until n, starting from loop until n, starting from 1. Okay, what I have to do while looping, I have to print the numbers, right? I have to print the numbers. So this is where we use loops. Loops are used to execute a piece of code continuously until we reach a condition. Okay, so loop is used to execute a piece of code until it reaches the maximum value, or it reaches a condition wherein it cannot loop anymore. Okay, so this is what this is where the loops are used. So if I have something to access it repetitively, if I want to do it more and more and more at once, then yeah, I'll go ahead and start using my loops. Loops are like the name itself says, like loop is like never ending. That's what the English meaning for loop is. It's never ending. So yeah, but in this case, yeah, it's still never ending, but that's the reason we are saying that if it reaches a maximum value or if it reaches a condition, so that condition will help us getting out of the loop. Okay, always remember, a loop should not execute continuously. It should terminate at one point. So that point is our condition. Okay, right? So that is about loops and JavaScript. So JavaScript has four types of loops. Okay, the first one being while. Okay, the next one will be do while, then a for loop, then a for in loop. Okay, so it's a while, do while, for, and for in. Alright, so there are four types of loops in JavaScript. So loops are used to execute a piece of code until it reaches the maximum value or it reaches a condition where it cannot loop anymore. That's what we have discussed so far. So now let's go ahead and see the syntax for each of the looping structure. So in this, let's say we'll discuss while and do while. So while the syntax is here, there will be a condition or variable. Okay, then again even the loop structures have the open brace and the close brace. So that means, okay, the while starts here and ends here. So whatever I write inside it, you have to execute this piece of code repetitively until the condition is met. Okay, here I'll write, oops. Here I'll write, okay, execute this code. Okay, so now I execute this code. There should be something like, if, like, say the condition, if the condition is true, it enters into it. Now I have to somehow make the condition to be false, right? Because if I do not make it, it continuously executes the code. So there comes our, here we have to do some data manipulation so that the loop is exited. Okay, so we have to do some data manipulation out there so that the loop should be terminated. As I told you guys previously, like, a loop should not go for continuously. It is bad coding practice. Like, you must terminate the loop at some point of time. So that termination comes only when we manipulate, when we change the variable. Okay, or we can use, we have seen previously in the previous class, switch case statements. What was the statement which is used to kick the execution out of switch case statement? Any idea, guys? What is that keyword which is used to terminate or to break? Exactly. So I can use break and get out of this loop too. So break is again here to come out of the loop. Okay, we'll see how we can implement in both the ways. So this is about our while loop. Okay, so if we literally translate this, you can say while. So while says, okay, while this condition is true, okay, execute this piece of code until the condition. Okay, that's what it checks for the condition here or checks for the variable. Suppose if variable is 0. Or if the variable is false, let's say it does not go into the loop. If the variable is true, the variable has a value which is other than then it goes inside the loop. Okay, everything depends on the condition or the variable to execute this particular piece of code over here. Okay, and like such, we have one more looping structure called do while. So the only difference between do while and while is, like, do while is executed at least once before checking for the condition, whereas while something, the execution goes inside only when the condition is true. Like, it first checks the condition, then goes into the loop, whereas do while, yeah, it does not check anything here, just execute this code, and as again I told, we have to manipulate the data so that it comes out of our loop. So do some data manipulation so that loop is broken, let's say. Okay, and while here now it checks the condition. Now, okay, if the condition is true, or if the variable is true, or if the variable has a value other than 0, then yeah, go back inside the loop and start executing the code, then manipulate the data so that it comes here and checks again for the variable or the condition. Okay, So yeah, the only difference between while and do while is executed at least once, and while will check for the condition before entering into the loop. If the condition or the variable is true or other than 0, yeah, then only executes the code. Okay, that's while and do while. Any questions here?